I'm here live right now from this incredible turn of events. It seems an outbreak of some sort is happening, while we have heard rumors of a virus apocalypse or vast zombies that would attack. And this is something entirely different, folks. People are literally transforming before our eyes into something new. Infected with what they're referring to as the Holy Spirit.
There's a virus that's been passed to the masses, growing contagious so that millions now have it. It's a disease without a cure or a serum, and there's no need for a vaccine or injection. There's no inoculation, I hope you all get it. Then just spread it to your loved ones and friends. Get sick with it and give it to the kids who share it with their friends, and bring it home to mom and dad and on again. It's a plague that can save you from sin and deception. I pray it invades and reshapes your vision. I play with these antonyms followed by synonyms, speak parables and awaken those listening. Wage spirit battles in the hearts of all doubters, gathering scenes, shouting louder and louder, reaching out, branching to all populations and planting the truth to cause transformation. What you're hearing is contagious. We got a sickness whose symptoms include a relentless pursuit of the truth. This infection is infectious. We warn you now, you listen at your own risk. What you're hearing is contagious. We got a sickness whose symptoms include a relentless pursuit of the truth. This infection is infectious. We warn you now, you listen at your own risk.
Used to call me Black Plague, but all I ever do is spread truth and not death. Put knowledge in their heads, trying to suppress me. When medicine called the media, change up the history books. Wikipedia lies, they be feeding you, be making you sick. Truth serum is the only real fix, and I'ma spread it all around like ticks. Spread the Lyme disease, contagious like germs every time that you sneeze. In the air that you breathe and portrayed in your lung, have the truth rolling off your tongue. This war has just begun. Won't stop till the battle is won. Light of the world just like the sun. I'm a virus infecting the minds of the lost. Wake them up to the truth at all costs. Gonna spread all over the planet. Cannot be silenced. Antichrist is the ultimate violent tyrant.
What you're hearing is contagious. We got a sickness whose symptoms include a relentless pursuit of the truth. This infection is infectious. We warn you now, you listen at your own risk. What you're hearing is contagious. We got a sickness whose symptoms include a relentless pursuit of the truth. This infection is infectious. We warn you now, you listen at your own risk.
Let's critically think about the world that we live in. From the beginning, we've been lied to and tricked into sinning. The devil really thinks that he's winning. People bend morals and values to fit in. A truth that's sort of spread all over the land. Been derailed by the God of this world. From the plan, let the truth be told. It's time we take a stand. Spoon-fed lies from the media's hands. But you're soon gonna find for real. Like it or not, can't see anything in your views. A blind spot you forgot while you sit on the side. The world rots. This song is like smoking on medicinal pot. It's a cure for I don't wanna know syndrome. You don't care about drones flying over your home. FEMA got America split up in 10 zones. Ignorant to the truth that the Bible's shown.
What you're hearing is contagious. We got a sickness whose symptoms include a relentless pursuit of the truth. This infection is infectious. We warn you now, you listen at your own risk. What you're hearing is contagious. We got a sickness whose symptoms include a relentless pursuit of the truth. This infection is infectious. We warn you now, you listen at your own risk.
The symptoms include an overwhelming sense of peace and joy in pursuing truth. It's spreading worldwide, folks, like a virus for what they're calling the gospel message of Jesus Christ. This is an amazing scene now, with people running through the streets, hugging, praying with one another, and praising God's name. This is just overwhelming to see this. This is unbelievable, folks. Wow.
Yo, can't y'all see what they doing here, man? I mean, how much more we gotta tell y'all and show y'all stuff, man? When y'all gonna wake up? If you ain't saved now, you better get saved right now. Solve and coagula, tear down and rebuild the whole system. Bible prophecy fulfilled. They speak loud, those with ears to hear can hear it. But I belong to Jesus Christ, so I don't fear it. It's written on the arms of the Baphomet. One of the gods they worship is new to some, you never heard it. The female breasted male genital goat, pentagram forehead as above below. Moon silver black and white, horns left and right. Been revealed to the world, hidden in plain sight. 3 fingers pointing up, 3 more pointing down. Hexagram satanic, the corona crown. Dollar bill being burnt to the ground until it's ash. Rebuild to the new way to pay with no cash. Corona Germ money makes it move real fast. Blockchain, digital currency is in the grass. Solve a coagula, tear down and rebuild the whole system. Bible prophecy fulfilled. They speak loud, those with ears to hear can hear it. But I belong to Jesus Christ, so I don't fear it. Solve a coagula, tear down and rebuild the whole system. Bible prophecy fulfilled. They speak loud, those with ears to hear can hear it. But I belong to Jesus Christ, so I don't fear it. At one point in your life, you could walk around, get your hair cut, go around and eat a meal downtown. Take your son to the park, just do what you do. Stay outside as long as you want, no curfew. Yeah, you can move around freely and shake hands. Nobody looking over your shoulder with demand. Open your business and sell without a mask. You try that today and you might get harassed. Stand 6 feet away, you're way too close. You interfere with my 5G digital ghost. Yeah, they're watching every move that I make. I can't take it, mind controlling us. The people don't play, I can't break it. So stay home, stay safe, and shelter in place. Don't listen, and they might call you a disgrace. Take this mark of the beast, become part of the race. Conform to the hive mind, the AI face. Solve a coagula, tear down and rebuild the whole system. Bible prophecy fulfilled. They speak loud, those with ears to hear can hear it. But I belong to Jesus Christ, so I don't fear it. Solve a coagula, tear down and rebuild the whole system. Bible prophecy fulfilled. They speak loud, those with ears to hear can hear it. But I belong to Jesus Christ, so I don't fear it. I remember when boys grew up to be men and girls dressed modestly way back then. And Pop went to work, Mom took care of the house. And if I talk real slick, I got slapped in the mouth. Dad was the role model, we looked up to him most. Mom taught us how to cook and how not to burn toast. Mom and Dad stayed together, they was there for me. Pop was always in charge, head of the family. But lately, things have gotten so out of whack. God's family structure was under attack. Yeah, the feminists moved to put Mom above Dad. Kids acting up, thinking it's cool to be bad. Men dressing like women, acting more feminine. Transgender kids being gay is good, no sin. Pedophilia running riot, going down the wrong path. You burn it down, rebuild it, prepare for God's wrath. Solve a coagula, tear down and rebuild the whole system. Bible prophecy fulfilled. They speak loud, those with ears to hear can hear it. But I belong to Jesus Christ, so I don't fear it. Solve a coagula, tear down and rebuild the whole system. Bible prophecy fulfilled. They speak loud, those with ears to hear can hear it. But I belong to Jesus Christ, so I don't fear it.
And we are live, and the exciting thing is we are live on multiple channels. We are live on Twitch. We are live on DLive. We are live on YouTube and Facebook. So there it is. We're live on every single one of those channels. If you're interested in any of the other ones that aren't YouTube or Facebook or whatever, all the links I just dropped, if you're not on The YouTube one, I guess I didn't drop that link for people. I'd have to drop it in all the other ones. But I am Erin Lane Moffat on YouTube. But we are live everywhere except for Odyssey, because I don't know how to go live to Odyssey at the same time as all these because Restream doesn't do it yet. But maybe one of these days. So that's my quick announcement. And hope you had a happy Shabbat Shalom yesterday. Shalom. Shabbat. You know what I mean. Are you there, Mr. NPC?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay,
Can you hear
great.
me?
Yes, sir.
Is the screen already up?
Yes, sir.
Wonderful. Got a little ahead of the game there today. Well, let me go ahead and start sharing that. We're going to be covering some scripture about Christmas. So we'll be reading in Jeremiah 10. And then to kind of relate it to gift giving in a sense, we'll talk about 1 Corinthians 13, 1 Corinthians 12, and Matthew 25 when it discusses talents. So this is the first time that I think all the planets, the first time that we've covered this anyway, that all the planets have been visible over Jerusalem. Normally there's at least one that's not. So perhaps it's a particularly auspicious evening. I'll be doing a fire here lately. I got to burn some brush. So anyway, let's carry on.
I wish I could have a fire, but it's not even 10 degrees out today, and tomorrow's going to be a high of 1 degree.
I got to do it because either it's raining or I'm tired. There's always some excuse, so it must be done, Aaron. So here's a link relating to stars and such. So they say at the center of the galaxy, they've discovered a cross, which is kind of interesting to me. I don't know if I've shared this the last time, but they claim that this is an image snapped from the wide field planetary camera on NASA's Hubble Space Telescope. And they're calling it a dark X. They don't want to say it's a cross, but they're saying an X. But still yet, it's quite remarkable, wouldn't you say?
Yes, I would.
So I didn't want to dwell on these things too much because we got a lot of other things to share. But we'll go ahead and start with the. Oops, there we go. All right, I actually did from yesterday. Since yesterday was Saturday, it just so happens it was Christmas. So we'll be reading the Tehillim praise and the Torah portion, Exodus 5:1 and 6:1. So without further ado or delay, we'll read the Jewish history part here. Shimon born, interesting, his last name was born. Shimon, the second son of Jacob and Leah, was the progenitor of the Israelite tribe of Shimon, I guess it's Simon, perhaps, was born on Tevet 21, according to another opinion on Tevet 28 of the year 2194 from creation, which translates to 1567 BCE for us, 9 years after Jacob's arrival in Charan. Okay, and then it lists here Purim Anakana, 1690 on December 23rd, 1690 strong earthquakes rattled the city of Ancona, Italy, causing numerous structures to collapse and placing its inhabitants in mortal danger. Miraculously, the Jewish quarter was spared, suffering the collapse of only one house. In commemoration of this event, the local Jewish community established that date as a day of celebration and song, while the previous day, Tevet 20, would be marked yearly by fasting and charity. It's funny, we're going to be talking about a Swedish company known as Epicenter. That's who's making the microchip for the passports, the COVID passports. So Epicenter is where you get the largest reading from an earthquake, So I think it's kind of interesting. We're told to watch for birth pangs and earthquakes and things of that nature. And then this company comes along. But I digress. So let's continue with the daily Tehillim. So let me go ahead and share this one. And we'll go ahead and begin with Exodus chapter 5. This is the Torah portion. Oh, I'm sorry. This is the Torah portion first. Then we'll do the Tehillim. I meant to do the Tehillim first. You know what? In fact, we'll go ahead and do the Tehillim first.
Do it first.
Chapter 104. Well, I wanted to open with praise.
I'm just trying to be.
so
I'm
we'll
just
go-
trying to be interactive.
Meow. This is Psalms chapter 104 through 105. You know, since it's on the screen, you could read one. Do you want to read 104?
Sure, the whole thing, or just I can see the first. Wait. Well.
Yeah, they're both kind of long, actually.
Well, I can't see the first part anymore. There you
I
go.
scrolled down, but so.
I'll read one. I can see 1 through 26. How about I'll read that?
That's fine.
All right. Chapter 104, starting with verse 1 going down. My soul, bless the Lord. Lord my God, you are greatly exalted. You have garbed yourself with majesty and splendor. You enwrap yourself with light as a garment. You spread the heavens as a curtain. He roofs his heavens with water. He makes the clouds his chariot. He moves them on the wings of the wind. He makes the winds his messengers, the blazing fire his servants. And of course, if you want to stop and say anything, feel free as I read. He established the earth on its foundations, that it shall never falter. The depths covered it as a garment. The waters stood above the mountains. At your exhortation they fled. At the sound of your thunder they rushed away. They ascended mountains. They flowed down valleys, to the place which you have assigned for them. You set a boundary which they may not cross, so that they should not return to engulf the earth. He sends forth springs into streams. They flow between the mountains. They give drink to all the beasts of the field. The wild animals quench their thirst. The birds of the heavens dwell beside them. They raise their voice among the foliage. He irrigates the mountains from his clouds above. The earth is satiated from the fruit of your works. He makes grass grow for the cattle, and vegetation requiring the labor of man to bring forth food from the earth, and wine that gladdens man's heart, oil that makes the face shine, and bread that sustains man's heart. The trees of the Lord drink their fill, the cedars of Lebanon which he planted, wherein birds build their nests. The stork has her home in the cypress. The high mountains are for the wild goats. The rocks are a refuge for the rabbits. He made the moon to calculate the festivals. The sun knows its time of setting. You bring on darkness, and it is night, when all the beasts of the forest creep forth. The young lions roar for prey and seek their food from God. When the sun rises, they return and lie down in their dens. Then man goes out to his work, to his labor until evening. How manifold are your works, O Lord! You have made them all with wisdom. The earth is full of your possessions. The sea, vast and wide, where there are countless creeping creatures, living things, small and great. Their ships travel. There is the Leviathan that you created to frolic therein. That's 26.
Can you imagine Leviathan frolicking?
Just a frolicking Leviathan.
Certainly.
I'll do 26 down to 35. So I just read 26. 27. They all look expectantly to you to give them their food at the proper time. When you give it to them, they gather it. When you open your hand, they are satiated with goodness. When you conceal your countenance, they are terrified. When you take back their spirit, they perish and return to their dust. When you will send forth your spirit, they will be created anew, and you will renew the face of the earth. May the glory of the Lord be forever. May the Lord find delight in his works. He looks at the earth and it trembles. He touches the mountains and they smoke. I will sing to the Lord with my soul. I will chant praise to my God with my entire being. May my prayer be pleasant to him. I will rejoice in the Lord. May sinners cease from the earth and the wicked be no more. Bless the Lord, O my soul. Praise the Lord. Lovely.
Yeah.
Love it.
That's why the Psalms are so great, because they're just song and song and song of praise. Chapter 105. When David brought the holy ark up to the city of David, he composed this psalm and sang it before the ark. He recounts all the miracles that God performed for the Jews in Egypt, sending before them Joseph, who was imprisoned, only to be liberated by God, eventually attaining the status of one who can imprison the princes of Egypt without consulting Pharaoh. Verse 1. Offer praise to the Lord, proclaim his name, make his deeds known among the nations, sing to him, chant praises to him, speak of all his wonders, glory in his holy name. May the heart of those who seek the Lord rejoice. Search for the Lord and his might. Seek his countenance always. Remember the wonders that he has wrought, his miracles, and the judgments of his mouth. O descendants of Abraham, his servant, children of Jacob, his chosen ones. He is the Lord our God. His judgments extend over the entire earth. He remembers his covenant forever, the word which he has commanded to 1,000 generations. The covenant which he made with Abraham and his oath to Isaac. He established it for Jacob as a statute, for Israel as an everlasting covenant, stating, quote, to you I shall give the land of Canaan, the portion of your inheritance. When they were but few, very few, and strangers in it, they wandered from nation to nation, from one kingdom to another people. He permitted no one to wrong them, and admonished kings for their sake. Do not touch my anointed ones, and do not harm my prophets. He called for a famine upon the land. He broke every source of bread. He sent a man before them. Joseph was sold as a slave. They afflicted his foot with chains. His soul was put into iron, until the time that his words came. The decree of the Lord purified him. The king sent word and released him. The ruler of the nations set him free. He appointed him master of his house and ruler of all his possessions, to imprison his princes at will and to enlighten his elders. Thus Israel came to Egypt, and Jacob sojourned in the land of Ham, Egypt. He multiplied his nation greatly and made it mightier than its adversaries. He turned their hearts to hate his nation, to conspire against his servants. He sent Moses, his servant Aaron, whom he had chosen. They placed among them the words of his signs, miracles, in the land of Ham. We'll be reading something here later that kind of highlights I think it's in Matthew 25. Yeah, when it talks about the talents, how the kingdom of heaven is likened to a man that went to a far country, and while he was gone, he chose laborers. So this kind of reminds me of that. Okay, let's continue. Verse 27. They placed among them the words of his signs, miracles in the land of Ham. He sent darkness and made it dark, and they did not defy his word. He transformed their waters to blood and killed their fish. Their land swarmed with frogs and the chambers of their kings. He spoke, and hordes of wild beasts came, and lice throughout their borders. He turned their rains to hail, flaming fire in their land. It struck their vine and fig tree. It broke the trees of their borders. This is interesting because in some contexts with prophecy, when it depicts like a scene of peace, and it talks about being under the vine and the fig tree. So this must be like a symbol of concordia or harmony, like all peace, fruitfulness. Verse 34, he spoke, and grasshoppers came, locusts without number, and it consumed all grass in their land. It ate the fruit of their soil. You know what's really funny? I didn't even know we were going to read this. This happens a lot. And yet we got Revelation 9 right here to read later. It talks about the locusts. So that's pretty funny. I love it when that happens. Sorry.
There are no coincidences.
Yeah, I mean, it happens so often. I don't think there is. Verse 36, then he smote every firstborn in their land, the first of all their potency, and he took them out with silver and gold, and none among his tribes stumbled. Egypt rejoiced at their leaving, for the fear of Israel had fallen upon them. He spread out a cloud for shelter and a fire to illuminate the night. Israel asked, and he brought quail, and with the bread of heaven he satisfied them. He opened a rock, and waters flowed. They streamed through dry places like a river, for he remembered his holy word to Abraham his servant. And he brought out his nations with joy, his chosen ones with song. He gave them the lands of nations. They inherited the toil of peoples, so that they might keep his statutes and observe his laws. Praise the Lord. I will mention that even though this part about giving them quail, the people that ate that died while it was still in their mouths. So he does talk about judgments up here, I think. So no, maybe not. All the miracles that were performed. Yeah, that was a punishment of sorts, because they were complaining that manna wasn't enough. So he sent them the quail, and they ate the meat and died. Anyway, let's continue on the Torah portion here. I already shared this link, but go ahead and share it once again. So this is Exodus chapter 5. It starts with verse 1. Again, we don't read the commentary here, but we will read the Torah portions. And afterwards Moses and Aaron came and said to Pharaoh, so said the Lord God of Israel, send out my people, and let them sacrifice to me in the desert. And Pharaoh said, who is the Lord that I should heed his voice to let Israel out? I do not know the Lord, neither will I let Israel out. And they said, the God of the Hebrews has happened upon us. Now let us go on a 3-day journey in the desert and sacrifice to the Lord our God, lest he strike us with a plague or with the sword. Which we learn from David's choice of punishment. The sword of the Lord can be a plague even. Verse 4, but the king of Egypt said to them, why, Moses and Aaron, do you disturb the people from their work? Go to your own labors. And Pharaoh said, behold, now the people of the land are many, and you are stopping them from their labors. So on that day Pharaoh commanded the taskmasters of the people and their offices, saying, you shall not continue to give stubble to the people to make the bricks like yesterday and the day before yesterday. Let them go and gather stubble for themselves. But the number of bricks they have been making yesterday and the day before yesterday, you shall impose upon them. You shall not reduce it, for they are lax. Therefore they cry out, saying, let us go and sacrifice to our God. So here he's increasing their labor. Like in the assembly line, it's like you couldn't do your part until you went and got the other part that you would normally get already. So he's adding to their labor. Verse 9, let the labor fall heavy upon the men, and let them work at it, and let them not talk about false matters. Verse 10, so the taskmasters of the people and their officers came out and spoke to the people, saying, so said Pharaoh, I'm not giving you stubble. You go take for yourself stubble from wherever you find it, because nothing will be reduced from your work." So the people scattered throughout the entire land of Egypt to gather a gleaning for stubble. This suggests that the gleanings are what the poor would normally get. Like if you planted a garden and you took everything off of it, but then at some point you let what's left for the poor. So you're not even getting the best of it. So they're just trying to find whatever they can. That's what this is kind of basically saying. Verse 13, "And the taskmasters were pressing them, saying, 'Finish your work, the requirement of each day in its day, just as when there was stubble.' And the officers of the children of Israel, whom Pharaoh's taskmasters had appointed over them, were beaten, saying, 'Why have you not completed your quota, to make bricks like the day before yesterday, neither yesterday nor today?' So the officers of the children of Israel came and cried out to the Pharaoh, saying, 'Why do you do this to your servants? Stubble is not given to your servants, but they will tell us, Make bricks, and behold, your servants are beaten, and your people are sinning.' But he said, 'You are lax, just lax. Therefore you say, Let us go, let us sacrifice to the Lord. And now go and work, but you will not be given stubble. Nevertheless, the same number of bricks you must give.' The officers of the children of Israel saw them in distress, saying, 'Do not reduce the number of your bricks, the requirement of each day in its day.'" There's a lot of toiling and labor going on here. Verse 20, "They met Moses and Aaron standing before them when they came out from the Pharaoh's presence. And they said unto them, May the Lord look upon you and judge, for you have brought us into foul odor in the eyes of Pharaoh, and in the eyes of his servants, to place a sword in their hands to kill us." This kind of reminds me of maybe the situation today, how Christians today might be blamed for making the lives of others harder, like if they don't want to take the juice, for instance, because it all centers around economics. Verse 22, "So Moses returned to the Lord and said, O Lord, why have you harmed his people? Why have you sent me? Since I have come to Pharaoh to speak in your name, he has harmed this people, and you have not saved your people." Continues with Exodus chapter 6. "And the Lord said to Moses, Now you will see what I will do to Pharaoh, for with a mighty hand he will send them out, and with a mighty hand he will drive them out of the land." So this is, of course, he then pursues them out of the land and gets, his troops are all crushed in the Red Sea, leaving him alone. So this is a little while before that. But he's getting ready to smite him with all the plagues to humble him. So we kind of see Pharaoh in this same role as like Nebuchadnezzar, for instance, a very haughty ruler, tyrant. So this is the type of person that we should expect to see manifesting very soon in our world. We haven't had something like this in a long time. Okay, so I was asked to pray for Christmas took place here at my house, and I don't own this house, so I house sit for relatives, and so I don't have control over a lot of things. So, for instance, they put up a tree in the house, and they had dinner and stuff like that, and they asked me to pray. So I chose a few verses that I felt kind of focused on gifts, to try and relate to them a little bit. So I will start with 1 Corinthians 12 first. And so it was very awkward, might I add, to be praying on a Saturday for a holiday I don't practice.
And this is with your family, like a family dinner?
Yeah. But, and they had ham too. So.
Oh, that's right. Ham for dinner. See, my dad was cooking ham as well, so I declined dinner. And I didn't say anything. I'm not like, oh, ham, but I'm like, we're good.
And, I had a menorah and some bread and wine and everything sitting downstairs, and I was made to move that so that they could make way for decorations and things of that nature. So I just, wanted to share a little bit about that, about how it's very difficult to not, the momentum of this holiday is it's hard to stop. You can't even
That's
really
right.
reason with people about it. And this kind of dovetails with something you said happened in the Discord. Somebody got upset about an article you shared, so I
Yeah.
could relate to that.
Let me just show real quick what that was. It was this video here called The Forbidden History of Christmas, and it is so well done. It has so much good information that goes through the Yule log. It talks about the mistletoe. It talks about Saturnalia. It talks about all of those things. And the bummer part is, I didn't post it in the Discord and tell everybody you need to listen to me and do what this video tells you. All I did was post it, and it caused somebody to be very upset and angry. Eventually got angry, very offended. And the problem with that is they wouldn't even watch the video. And I think if somebody watched the video with an honest heart for truth, that they would be disturbed by this enough to go, wow, I don't think I should probably be celebrating Christmas the way that I have been or still do or whatever. Even though I didn't tell anyone what they can and can't do. I merely posted the video. So that's the sad part about that. But I think if somebody had an honest look at what is behind it, which a lot of us know a lot about and some of us don't know anything about, that you would feel differently. And one of my friends on Facebook did in fact say that he mentioned, I posted on Facebook and he said, I didn't know any of this. And I said, it probably changes how you feel about how you celebrate, doesn't it? And he said, oh yeah, it really does. So taking an honest look, when you could become angry at what this video says, if you watched it, which this guy didn't, but if you were to watch it and you become angry with that, well, it just shows that your belief system is so set that you will not see it any other way. Like you said, the momentum is too strong.
Yeah, so maybe we should start with Jeremiah 10, actually, because I didn't mention this during the day because I didn't want to necessarily upset anybody. But I did touch on some of these other scriptures concerning gifts. But since we're in good company tonight, I will go ahead and start with Jeremiah 10. So that if you would like to share this with people, friends or family that you're having a difficult time with, if they're obedient to the word of God, then they should want to take a second look at this, like you were saying, Aaron. So we'll go ahead and start with Jeremiah 10, verse 1. This is subtitled, The Sovereignty of God. Hear ye the word which the Lord speaketh unto you, O house of Israel. Thus saith the Lord, learn not the way of the heathen, not be dismayed at the signs of heaven, for the heathen are dismayed at them. For the customs of the people are vain, for one cutteth a tree out of the forest, the work of the hands of a workman with an axe. They deck it with silver and with gold. They fasten it with nails and with hammers, that it move not. They are upright as the palm tree, but speak not. They must needs be born, because they cannot go. Be not afraid of them, for they cannot do evil, neither also is it in them to do good. Forasmuch as there is none like unto thee, O Lord, thou art great, and thy name is great in might. Who would not fear thee, O King of nations? For to thee doth it appertain, forasmuch as among all the wise men of the nations, and in all the kingdoms, there is none unlike unto thee. But they are altogether brutish and foolish. The stock is a doctrine of vanities. Silver spread into plates is brought from Tarshish, and gold from Uphaz. The work of the workman and of the hands of the founder, blue and purple is their clothing. They are all the work of cunning men. But the Lord is the true God. He is the living God, and an everlasting King. At his wrath the earth shall tremble, and the nations shall not be able to abide. his indignation. Thus shall ye say unto them, the gods that have not made the heavens and the earth, even they shall perish from the earth, and from under these heavens. He hath made the earth by his power, he hath established the world by his wisdom, and hath stretched out the heavens by his discretion. When he uttereth his voice, there is a multitude of waters in the heavens, and he causeth the vapors to ascend from the ends of the earth. He maketh lightnings with rain, and bringeth forth the wind out of his treasures. Every man is brutish in his knowledge. Every founder is confounded by the graven image. For his molten image is falsehood, and there is no breath in them. They are vanity, and the work of errors. In the time of their visitation they shall perish. The portion of Jacob is not like them, for he is the former of all things, and Israel is the rod of his inheritance. The Lord of hosts is his name. That was a lot of appellation and praise, and then it talks about the destruction, the coming destruction. Verse 17. Gather up thy wares out of the land, O inhabitant of the fortress. For thus saith the Lord, behold, I will sling out the inhabitants of the land at this once, and I will distress them, for they may find it so. Woe is me for my hurt, my wound is grievous. But I said, truly, this is a grief, and I must bear it. My tabernacle is spoiled, and my cords are broken, and my children are gone from forth of me, and they are not. There is none to stretch forth my tent any more, and to set up my curtains. For the pastors are all become brutish, and have not sought the Lord. Therefore they shall not prosper, and all their flocks shall be scattered. Behold, the noise of the bruit is come, and a great commotion out of the north country, to make the cities of Judah desolate, and a den of dragons. Jeremiah's prayer. O Lord, I know that the way of man is not in himself. It is not in man that walketh to direct his steps. O Lord, correct me, but with judgment, not in thine anger, lest thou bring me to nothing. Pour out thy fury upon the heathen that know... Sorry, I guess somebody's here. Pour out thy fury upon the heathen that know thee not, and upon the families that call not on thy name. For they have eaten up Jacob, and devoured him, and consumed him, and have made his habitation desolate. Now we'll read spiritual gifts bestowed. Concerning spiritual gifts, brethren, I would you be ignorant. Go ahead and do that one now. Okay, spiritual gifts bestowed. Now concerning spiritual gifts, brethren, I would not have you be ignorant. Ye know that ye were Gentiles carried away into these dumb idols, even as ye were led. Wherefore I give you to understand that no man speaketh by the Spirit of God calleth Jesus accursed, and that no man can say that Jesus is the Lord, but by the Holy Ghost. Now there are diversities of gifts, but the same Spirit. And there are differences of administrations, but the same Lord. And there are diversities of operations, but it is the same God which worketh all in all. But the manifestation of the Spirit is given to every man to profit withal. For to one is given by the Spirit the word of wisdom, to another the word of knowledge by the same Spirit, to another faith by the same Spirit, to another the gifts of healing by the same Spirit, to another the working of miracles, to another a prophecy, to another discerning of gifts, to another divers kinds of tongues, to another the interpretation of tongues. But all these worketh that one and the self same Spirit, dividing to every man severally as he will. It continues here to liken these unto a body, such as the body of Christ. Many members, one body. For as the body is one and hath many members, and all the members of that one body, being many, are one body, also so also is Christ. For by one Spirit we are all baptized into one body, whether we be Jews or Gentiles, whether we be bond or free, and have been all made to drink into one Spirit. For the body is not one member but many. If the foot shall say, because I am not the hand, I am not the body, is it therefore not the body? And if the ear shall say, because I am not the eye, I am not of the body, is it therefore not of the body? If the whole body were an eye, where were the hearing? If the whole were hearing, where were the smelling? But now hath God set the members, every one of them, in the body, as it hath pleased him. And if they were all one member, where were the body? But now are there many members, yet but one body. And the eye cannot say to the hand, I have no need of thee, nor again the head to the feet, I have no need of you. Nay, much more those members of the body which seem to be more feeble are necessary, and those members of the body which we think to be less honorable, upon these we bestow more abundant honor, and our uncomely parts have more abundant comeliness. For our comely parts have no need, but God hath tempered the body together, having given more abundant honor to that part which lacked. For instance, blessed are the feet shod in the gospel, for instance. Verse 25, that there should be no schism in the body, but that the members should have the same care one for another, and whether one member suffer, all the members suffer with it, or one member be honored, or the members rejoice with it. Verse 27, now ye are the body of Christ, and the members in particular. Spiritual gifts. And God hath set some in the church, first apostles, secondarily prophets, third teachers, after that miracles, then gifts of healing, helps, governments, diversities of tongues. Are all apostles? Are all prophets? Are all teachers? Are all workers of miracles? Have all the gifts of healing? Do all speak with tongues? Do all interpret? But covet earnestly the best gifts, and yet show I unto you a more excellent way. So just a reminder that we all have different talents and skills, and that collectively we make up the body of Christ. Now we're going to read a little bit in 1 Corinthians 13. It kind of ties that together, but first I want to read. Now, did I share this particular?
I'm not sure, but I was going to mention that April did bring up the spirit.
Right, so we'll go on to Matthew 25.
Oh, hold on. April did bring up the spirit of Christmas, like we talked about for just a moment, and I did want to mention that she brought that up, and it bringing disunity and discord and things like that. And I said yes, because there is a spirit to Christmas, and it's not the Holy One.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll be reading 14 through 20 here, which should be right here. Okay. Actually, there's more to the parable, but that's the most salient part here. So the parable of the talents. For the kingdom of heaven is as a man traveling into a far country, who called his own servants and delivered unto them his goods. And unto one he gave 5 talents, to another 2, and to another 1, and to every man according to his several ability, and straightway took his journey. Then he that had received the 5 talents went and traded with the same, and made them another 5 talents. And likewise he that had received 2, he also gained the other 2. But he that received 1 went and digged in the earth, and hid his Lord's money, or talent. After a long time the Lord of those servants cometh, and reckoneth with them. And so he that had received 5 talents came and brought other 5 talents, saying, Lord, thou deliverest unto me 5 talents. Behold, I have gained beside them 5 talents more. His Lord said unto him, Well done, thou good and faithful servant. Thou hast been faithful over a few things. I will make thee ruler over many things, even thou into the joy of thy Lord. And it continues here to talk about the differences in the talents and how they were used. So let's go down here to this one, 26 through 30. And his Lord answered and said unto him, Thou wicked and slothful servant, thou knewest that I reap where I sowed not, and gathereth where I have not strawed. Thou oughtest therefore to have put my money to the exchangers, and then at my coming I should have received mine own with usury. Take therefore the talent from him, and give it unto him which had 10 talents. In other words, he who is responsible with his God-given talent. 29. For unto everyone that hath shall be given, and he shall have abundance. But for him that hath not been shall be taken away even that which he hath. And cast ye the unprofitable servant into outer darkness. There shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth. So in other words, they'll think they hadn't been doing anything wrong, but will discover that they were in error. Then it goes on to talk about the sheep and the goats, which I didn't actually plan on talking about that, but I do have an article here. Boris Johnson talking about goats. I'm sorry, I'm not sure where it's at. There it is. So maybe we can. I was having difficulty figuring out where it fit. So
God always finds a way for us.
So we can do this, and then I'll read the other. So here he is sitting with you know who.
Baal Gates.
Can you hear it?
I sure can.
Hello, you're listening to Hugo Talks. Billy Goat Gates is in the UK. He went and had a Michelin-star meal last night with Boris Johnson. He turned up in London last night where there was a crowd of people who made sure he did not feel very welcome. And this is all due to a partnership deal, it says here. The UK government has announced plans to launch a 400 million package of investment alongside the US billionaire Bill Gates to boost the development of new green technologies to help power a green industrial revolution. Oh. So when they say green technologies, they are talking about the digital prison open to everyone in that will trace and monitor everything you do and measure your reactions, measure your energy usage, and cut you off if you use too much. And technology that will actually harvest energy from you to power their system of control, which I'm going to talk about in a video later on today. So now Bill Gates is in a financial partnership with the UK government. Is there anybody he isn't in a financial agreement with? He's in an agreement with Tony Blair, every pharma company you can think of, every behavioral science lab you can think of, every media company you can think of. You name it. And now he's in a financial relationship with the government that the UK people pay their taxes to and supposedly elect, you know, because it's supposedly a democracy. Clearly, no such thing. Who is Bill Gates? Is he a doctor? No. Is he a politician? No. Has he been elected by anybody anywhere to be a spokesman for the people? No. No, of course not. Nobody would vote for him. That's why he never puts himself in that position. So no qualification, nobody wants him. This is just a super rich person who buys his way into everything. Anyhow, Boris Johnson talked about sacrificing a goat in their tedious little chat they did today about green technologies.
And look at what the UK has done with coal-fired power stations. It's a big problem around the world. I'm massively sympathetic to countries that are still relying on coal, but there are alternatives. You know, wind is not a commodity that is restricted to the UK. There are plenty of. I know it hasn't been a particularly windy year, but we must propitiate Icarus goat or something and get it. But lots of goats in a humane way, obviously.
Bill, thinking about the IEA report, you were nodding there.
That's the only interesting bit in the whole thing. Everything else is the same old crap, which is their excuse to bring in a.
All right, so you heard him mention there lots of goats, which it's kind of interesting because in one of the feast days, Yom Kippur, Day of Judgment, where it talks about the separation of the sheep and the goats here, that's one of the particular feast days where you do deal with the Lord's lamb or goat and then scapegoat. So I found that kind of interesting. And also lots are a lot of times the way that is chosen. So lots of goats is kind of an interesting play on words. So we'll go ahead and read about this here. This is Matthew 25:31 through 46. The sheep and the goats. When the Son of Man shall come in his glory, and all the holy angels with him, then shall he sit upon the throne of his glory, and before him shall be gathered all nations, and he shall separate them one from another, as a shepherd divideth his sheep from the goats. And he shall set up the sheep on his right hand, and the goats on his left. Then shall the king say unto them on his right hand, Come, ye blessed of my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world. For I was an hungered, and ye gave me meat. I was thirsty, and ye gave me drink. I was a stranger, and ye took me in. Naked, and ye clothed me. I was sick, and ye visited me. I was in prison, and ye came unto me. Then shall the righteous answer him, saying, Lord, when saw we thee and hungered, and fed thee, or thirsty, and gave thee drink? And when saw we thee a stranger, and took thee in, or naked, and clothed thee? And when saw we thee sick, or in prison, and came unto thee? And the king shall answer and say unto them, Verily I say unto you, inasmuch as ye have done unto one of the least of these my brethren, ye have done it unto me. So in other words, it's to be always looking for an opportunity to do God's work, and then to be laboring. And so every person you meet could be that opportunity to do that, and to also be witnessing to them when you do it. Verse 41, Then shall he say also unto them on his left hand, Depart from me, ye accursed, into everlasting fire, prepare for the devil and his angels. For I was hungered, and ye gave me no meat. I was thirsty, and ye gave me no drink. And I was a stranger, and ye took me not in. Naked, and ye clothed me not. Sick, and in prison, and ye visited me not. Then shall they also say, and also answer him, saying, Lord, when saw we thee an hungered, and or athirst, or a stranger, or naked, or sick, or in prison, and did not minister unto thee? Then shall he answer them, saying, Verily, I say unto you, inasmuch as ye did it not to the least of these, ye did it not to me. And these shall go away into everlasting punishment, but the righteous into life eternal. So the sheepfold gate, and outside the sheepfold gate, where you find lions and predators and all the dangers of the world. So the mercy door is basically the gate of the sheepfold gate, as it were. Okay, so now to draw the 1 Corinthians 12, Matthew 25 together, we can now read 1 Corinthians 13. And so, again here, though I speak, verse 1. Oh, I forgot to share this link. Okay. Verse 1. Though I speak with the tongues of men and of angels and have not charity, I am become as sounding brass or a tinkling cymbal. And though I have the gift of prophecy and understand all mysteries and all knowledge, and though I have all faith, so that I could remove mountains, and have not charity, I am nothing. And though I bestow all my goods to feed the poor, and though I give my body to be burned, and have not charity, it profiteth me nothing. Charity suffereth long, and is kind. Charity envieth not. Charity vaunteth not itself. It is not puffed up, doth not behave itself unseemly, seeketh not her own, and is not easily provoked, thinketh not evil, rejoiceth not in iniquity, but rejoiceth in the truth, beareth all things, believeth all things, hopeth all things, endureth all things. Verse 8, charity never faileth, but whether there be prophecies, and shall fail, whether there be tongues, they shall cease, whether there be knowledge, it shall vanish away. For we know in part, and we prophesy in part. But when that which is perfect is come, then that which is in part shall be done away. In other words, like when the head is placed upon the body, as it were. When I was a child, I spake as a child, I understood as a child, I thought as a child, but when I became a man, I put away childish things. For now we see through a glass darkly, but then face to face. Now I know in part, but then shall I know even as I am known. And now abideth faith, hope, charity, these three, but the greatest of these is charity. So as we read in the last chapters of Matthew, the lambs would be those that exercise charity, and the goats are those that thought they were doing it but weren't, or would only do it for the wrong reasons, etc. Okay, so here is this graphic we've shared before, which of course you notice the last variant here is, can you read that? Are you there, Aaron? Hello? Okay, so I heard something. All right, so we got done with the goat thing here. And here's this one. Can anybody in the chat tell me if we're still live? Okay, so this was a back in December 13th, 2020. This was, I'm wanting to kind of explain how, yes, it's been a year or two, but pay attention to the time of year. So we see this right here on the 13th of December. And this was the D-Day, or the beginning of the end, he says.
Sorry, I was gone for just a second with a phone call, so I don't know if you were trying to talk to me.
Yeah, can you please read this?
Yes. Situation update, December 13th. Trump readies evidence to leverage against Biden. General Perna announces vaccine Jabo D-Day. Oops. I forgot I wasn't on a Odyssey. The beginning of the end. So you want me to read the highlights?
Well, yeah, if you don't mind.
Okay. Nope. CIA assassination squads are active in America, taking out election fraud witnesses.
Oh, never mind. Sorry, I haven't read all that. Let me just play this. Sorry.
Okay.
Oh, wait, that's a 28 one. I don't want the commentary. I was just trying to find the video. I'm so sorry. I didn't have the chance to preview that one. But anyway, this was around the Hanukkah that year. And so let's go to this one. This is a better... That was a blog. This one's actually an article.
Everybody's saying where they thought I was. I wasn't in the potty. I was on the... I had a phone call from Grandma. My bad.
Okay. So this is the same era. And could you please read again?
Yeah.
I can't right now.
Yep. The nation's first C-19 Jabo will begin arriving in states Monday morning. This was probably a while ago, huh? U.S. officials said Saturday after the government gave the final go-ahead to the jabs needed to end an outbreak that has killed nearly 300,000 Americans. And trucks will roll out Sunday morning as shipping companies UPS and FedEx begin delivering the very corrupt Jabo companies jabs to nearly 150 distribution centers across the states, said General Perna of Operation Warp Speed. And the Trump administration's Jabo development program. An additional 425 sites will get shipments Tuesday and the remaining 66 on Wednesday. Initially, 3 million doses were expected to be shipped nationwide. It was unclear who would receive the first jabs, though healthcare workers and nursing home residents were the priority. A similar number of jabs were held back for those recipients' second dose, which is needed for full protection from COVID-19. Obviously, that's changed. The announcement Saturday kicks off a massive logistical operation involving the federal and state governments, private companies, and healthcare workers to quickly distribute limited Jabo supplies throughout the U.S. It offers hope in a country grappling with surging 6-foot killer infections and deaths, which are overwhelming hospitals and raising fears that they will only get worse as people gather over the holidays. Of course, that was warned again this year, wasn't it? Perna compared the Jabo distribution effort to D-Day, the U.S.-led military offensive that turned the tide in World War II. D-Day was the beginning of the end, and that's where we are today, Perna said. But he added that it would take months of work and diligence, courage, and strength to eventually achieve victory. Maine Health, a network of 12 hospitals based in Portland, planned to provide an expected first delivery of nearly 2,000 Jabos to the healthcare workers that would be treating the C-19. It's almost hard for me to talk about without tearing up, Mills said Saturday. The jab gives us a glimmer of light at the end of the tunnel, and look at where we are today. The first shipments will leave that corrupt manufacturing company's plant in Kalamazoo, Michigan, by truck and then be flown to regional hubs around the country. Medical distributor McKesson and the pharmacy chains, including CVS and Rite Aid, are also involved in the initial rollout in Jabos at nursing homes and assisted living centers. You want me to keep going?
No, that was enough. Oh, wait a second. Look at this.
Workers at Mount Sinai Hospital System in New York did a dry run this week to prepare for their shipment. Pharmacists practiced making separate doses of a training jab and ensuring the freezer was kept at temperatures colder than in Antarctica. I don't think they have to do that anymore. Whatever happened to keeping them cold?
Yeah, that's another thing that's kind of been forgotten. Do you know what this place is? Like, not this hospital, but like this mountain.
Where Moses got the tablets?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty interesting. That's something I didn't catch before. All right, so yeah, and this was a while ago, but this was same time of year.
Yeah, D-Day operation. They saved us. Look at what they did to turn the tides. Oh wait, we have Optimicron now, and it's so deadly it gives you cold-like symptoms.
And that one's in the middle. So
A little ahead of
this one-
time.
This one was just talked about recently. Okay, and this happened over the weekend.
This was very disturbing. He also did this with Bill O'Reilly. And if anyone's still thinking that he's some kind of salvation, which I don't think anyone here is, but he bragged about his booster with Bill O'Reilly, and then when people booed him, he got rude with them.
Could you help me
Yeah.
again?
Owens asked the former president where he stood on the issue of Jabo mandatos before Trump told her the Jabo is, quote, one of the greatest achievements of mankind, end quote. He says, I came up with 3 Jabos. All are very, very good. Came up with the 3 of them in less than 9 months, Trump said. It was supposed to take 5 to 12 years. Jeez Louise. And yet more people have died under COVID this year, by the way, under Brandon administration than under you, and more people took the jab this year, Owens replied. So people are questioning, oh no, Trump interrupts. The Jabo worked, but some people aren't taking it. The ones that get very sick and go to the hospital are the ones that don't take the jab, but it's still their choice. And if you take the jab, you're protected. The results of the jab are very good. And if you do get COVID, it's a very minor form. People aren't dying when they take the jab. He also did go on to say that this would have been like the flu of 1918 if people weren't taking his awesome jab, and she let him skirt around it. She didn't seem to have any problem with that.
Yeah, there's not much else here other than like maybe watching. Oh, here's that other one.
Yeah, with Bill O'Reilly. Yeah, you can play it and then we can hear the booing, if that's if you're allowed
I
to.
don't think it's working.
Oh.
Oh, well, here it is.
Yeah, some audience goers at a Dallas event booed him, and when he told them he did get his booster, whether he did or didn't, doesn't matter. Oh, don't. That's a very tiny group over there, he says. He got very upset. Don't. That's a very tiny group. And by the way, when you tell anyone who's still a Trump supporter, they say, oh, he didn't take the jab that everybody else is getting. He took a different one. And I'm thinking, well, that's not nice, because he sure is telling a lot of people to get it. And then how are they going to know to get the different one that he got? They're going to not be able to get the different one. They got to get the regular one while he's pushing it, telling people that it works very, very well. And we would have been the Spanish flu of 1918 if we hadn't have done this. Give me a break.
This is a concern of mine also, like this right here.
It says, I think it's a terrible thing. The president replied, I don't like to see the kids with the face diapers on. They're sitting in school. They have a hard enough time sitting in school. Yeah, that's right. She changed the subject to the face diapers away from the jab because he was so supportive of it. And yeah, so how come all of us that haven't gotten the jab or even allegedly gotten the virus that I don't think even exists, how come we're still alive? We should be dead. Anyway,
and
go
it's
ahead.
just real enough, apparently. Now this one here is also recent.
Mm-hmm. He's going out to really sell this.
So emphasis on that, yeah.
I came up
Sorry if the buffering's
with
a big problem. I don't think it's
vaccine
gonna,
with 3
yeah, we don't need to do that because we already read it.
vaccines. All are very,
Just more.
Yeah, it's not working.
Give me a second here. I gotta do
very
this.
good. came up with 3 of them.
There we go. I had to pause.
Oh yeah, that's the part that that's what he was saying to her. That's just his interview with her, with Candace Owens, where he just says what I just read.
I just like to have more than one article when I can. So this one is, of course, he's talking about some of these other different Pokemon.
Get your booster. You got to get your booster. Get it, or else you're all gonna die. Illness and death for everybody. Winter of illness and death.
And okay, and so
Karen
here's
says,
this one.
Karen, did you send that to me on Discord or where? I saw you said it twice, I think, or maybe you didn't. Maybe I'm just seeing things. Go ahead. Oh yeah, Biden praises Trump for getting his booster and Operation Warp Speed. So
Hopefully this one will work.
2 wings of the same bird.
Including 62% of eligible seniors, our most vulnerable group, have gotten their booster shots. I got my booster shot as soon as they were available. And just the other day, former President Trump announced he had gotten his booster shot. Maybe one of the few things he and I agree on. People with booster shots are highly protected.
Highly protected. And now they're saying if you get sick with it after you've been jabbed, you got super immunity. Super immunity from getting sick after getting jabbed. Yeah. Yes.
Superhero emphasis. Whoa. Okay. So yeah, there's a little more on this here, and this teamwork that we're starting to see here, like, it made me think of something. So I might be able to read a little more now. Okay. So I'm gonna go ahead and share this. Okay, so Revelation 13. Mind you, there's 2 beasts, and one gives authority to the other, and one has the mark. So let's try to think about this within the context of what we're going to be reading here. Okay, so the beast out of the sea. And I stood upon the sand of the sea, and I saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the names of blasphemy. That's interesting, because this is very much like the dragon in Revelation that has 7. I'm pretty sure I read it as 7 heads, 10 horns, and 7 crowns in Revelation. But then we see this beast here having 7 heads, 10 horns, and 10 crowns. So I'm not sure if I read it incorrectly or not. But anyway, what's the other word for this, Aaron?
The beer. The beer that Hallett likes to drink.
Yeah.
That Gregory Hallett likes to drink.
Crown. Yes, it's another word. It's the Spanish word for crown.
Corona.
And and when a baby is first born, it crowns as it's coming through the birth canal. So your first fruits, this is why your firstborn would be the priest. He would be the first to receive his crown. And so he would be your Aaronic, your Aaron, your priest, the first fruits. So in Revelation 12:1, we see the baby being born or being crowned. And then that's followed by the red dragon with its many coronas. So think of that too when we're reading through this. Because again, I don't know how many of these have you actually heard of? That's an interesting question as well.
They were saying there was a Mu one coming out, the MU, but then it skipped over to Omicron.
So when you think about it, even though there's 22, I think, listed here, we might only have really heard about 10 or less. So just something, because they've already talking about Omega. And so makes you wonder if we're going to have 10 coronas, so to speak. Okay, so anyway, let's continue. Verse 2, and the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet were as of the feet of a bear, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion, and the dragon gave him his power and his seat and great authority. And I saw one of his heads as it were wounded to death. We were reading in Jeremiah, and that, again, right after it talks about the Christmas tree, it talks about the grievous wound. And so verse 3, and I saw one of his heads as it were wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed, and all the world wondered after the beast. And they worshipped the dragon, which gave power unto the beast. And they worshipped the beast, saying, Who is like unto the beast? Who is able to make war with him? And there was given unto him a mouth speaking great things and blasphemies. And power was given unto him to continue 42 months. We also see that 42 in Matthew, chapter 1, I think. We see that Christ's lineage, he manifested after 42 generations. And so here we see that the dragon's span is 42 months. It's kind of an interesting correlation there. Verse 6, and he opened his mouth in blasphemy against God, to blaspheme his name and his tabernacle and them that dwell in heaven. Verse 7, and it was given unto him to make war with the saints and to overcome them. And power was given him over all kindreds and tongues and nations, kind of like something like the United Nations. And all that dwell upon the earth shall worship him, whose names are not written in the book of life of the Lamb slain from the foundation of the world. Just like we read in Matthew 25, at the end of it, it talks about the kingdom at the foundation of the world. That's on the right hand. Verse 9, if any man have an ear, let him hear. He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. Here's the patience and the faith of the saints. So what do you know that in chapter 13 of Revelation, they do talk about captivity and the separation of the lambs and the goats and the gathering of all peoples and the coronas. Interesting themes. The beast out of the earth. Now, mind you, this was the first beast. So here's the second beast out of the earth. And I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, and it had 2 horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon, and he exerciseth all the power of the first beast before him, and causeth the earth and them which dwell in therein to worship the first beast. So I'm just saying that if Trump was the first beast, here's the second beast. So if this trend continues of him praising the first beast, you see what I mean? So let's just think, if this is possible, because bear with me, indulge me here, we continue. And I beheld another beast coming up from the earth, and he had 2 horns like a lamb, and spake as a dragon, and he exercises all the power of the first beast before him, and causeth the earth and them which dwell therein to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed. So think about what Kathy Griffin was depicting, right? Remember, she had his decapitated head, and Snoop Dogg was doing his, shooting at him and stuff. Yeah. Like, I mean, think about the weird thing going on there, and how this could relate. Verse 13, and he doeth great wonders, so that he maketh fire come down from heaven on earth in the sight of men, and deceiveth them that dwell on the earth by means of those miracles which he hath power to do in the sight of the beast, saying to them that dwell on the earth, that they should make an image to the beast, which had the wound by a sword and did live. So it's possible, maybe, I honestly can't see this happening, but to fulfill this, it would be like Biden, something happening to Trump, and then Biden making a statue of him, and So I'm just saying, if it's them, that's how this would have to like play out, I think. And of course, that image might speak. Verse 15, and he had power to give life into the image of the beast, and that the image of the beast should both speak and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. So it'll be like a talking statue, which we also see in Jeremiah when it's talking about the Christmas tree. It's talking about how the Christmas tree can't talk. So in a sense, the Christmas tree is an idol of sorts. And so when we read about Laban, Jacob, and Laban, or sorry, not Jacob, but I guess it
Joshua.
was Jacob. No, sorry, I got my people confused. When he was working for Laban,
right,
he had idols as well that he had in his house. So they were small, but a Christmas tree is like an example of a really big one. Okay, and we've of course talked about the giant interactive statue thing that they're going to try and start now. Okay, so then the mark of the beast comes. So we're in the second beast. Okay, so yes, the first guy started it, but the second guy is finishing it, right? So if he is the scapegoat, if Biden is the scapegoat, would he not have two horns like a lamb? Speaking like a dragon, perhaps. This is just one way to interpret it. Okay, mark of the beast. And he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads, and that no man might buy or sell save he that had the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. Here is wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666. So, we got two beasts here. Just something to consider. Both heads of the same dragon, if you will. So please don't fall into the cult of personality, regardless of which you might support. And just because we were talking about that, let me shift this article over. Here's the Swedish company. Now, this is nothing new to Watchmen. I mean, we've been hearing about this stuff for years. But here it is in the news again. I mean, if you look for articles, you won't really find anything newer than 3 or 4 years ago. But yet, here we go, right back in the news around the same time as D-Day, Hanukkah. And of course, that when Christ was questioned about the end times, he said, pray that your departure not be in the winter, right? So when we're reading in Jeremiah about the coming destruction and judgments in the latter part of Jeremiah 10, he's describing a Christmas tree at the first part. So there again, this dark winter motif. It's like all these threads of prophecy are starting to highlight this wintertime theme. So it may not be this winter, but it could certainly be the next one, because here we go. If this whole chip thing gets some momentum, who knows what we'll be looking at. So let's go ahead and I'll read a few things here, just some of these bullet points. A Swedish startup has created scannable digital implants that display one's certificate of Vax ID. It's a passport. The technology involves a small grain-sized implant being inserted under the skin. I notice how they always compare it to a grain, which is a fruit. Wheat and the tares emphasis. When the implant is scanned with a smartphone, one's charagma is then, and test results can be viewed as a PDF. Remember, charagma is proof of the mark, and that would be made on a piece of clay back in the day. But now technology, of course, has evolved so that we got the paper copy, you got the phone copy, and now you're getting this grain size thing here. But we are vessels of clay. So even though we're not using tablets of clay anymore, literally putting the brand on yourself, and your proof of it is charagma. And we've covered the topic of maker's mark or hallmark in the past, and this is when somebody that creates works of art would then put their maker's mark on it. And so when we read in various parts, especially Revelation, which we'll be reading Revelation 9, those who are of God are sealed. So we receive his hallmark, his maker's mark, and the locusts are not allowed to plague them. So let's continue. I got a little off track. When the implant is scanned with a smartphone, one's charagma details and test results can be viewed as a PDF. The Swedish startup has created a microchip that can be implanted into the skin, displaying details of one's charagma passport when scanned. Remember, they're calling this the green pass, by the way, which again will become highlighted in Revelation 9. I keep referencing it, so I want to at least show what I'm talking about here. Sorry for the lag. We've even been eliminating tabs.
Yeah, speaking of which, we are...
Just got a lag spike, guys. All right, so
yeah,
Revelation
speaking of which,
9 here.
Since you like to know the time, we are 1 hour and 31 minutes in.
Okay, well, I think we'll be able to finish it and still upload it to Odyssey then. That's good. All right, so let's see. Oh, yeah, so verse 4 here. And it was commanded them that they should not hurt the grass of the earth, neither any green thing, nor any tree, but only those men which have not the seal of God in their foreheads. And it was given unto them that they should not kill them, but that they should be tormented 5 months, and their torment was as the torment of a scorpion when he striketh a man. And in those days shall men seek death, and shall not find it, and shall desire to die, and desire shall flee, and death shall flee from them, rather. Then it goes on to talk about the locusts and the gate to the abyss, which we've talked about. Okay, well, I guess that's a good time to mention this too. You can't make this stuff up, guys. I know we've talked about this already in the past, but again, because it's relevant, I wanted to share this. So in case anybody hasn't heard about this yet, they'll be aware. So right now you got the gates of hell on display in Rome, and this is only until January 9th. So not for much longer, the gates of hell will be on display. Now I did notice something down here. There was a comment in this article. An important news agency headlined, "Hell conquers the Quinaral stables." Quinaral means spear bearer. And this is associated with Janus, who is sometimes known as Janus Quinaral. And so this is one of the 7 hills around Rome. So when you read in the Bible about the Babylon sitting upon 7 hills, you could kind of think of it like this. And of course, Janus being the spear bearer, Quinaral, this is associated with Rome. And it was a Roman legion soldier that took a spear and pierced Christ in the side. So in that moment, he was Quinaral, spear bearer as well. So we've talked about all that in the past. But here's this note here. It says, still others labeled as conspiracy theorists have noted that the coincidence of October 15th of the inauguration of the exhibition, it was from October 15th to January 9th, that the inauguration of this exhibition with the entry into force, they were to enforce the green pass for workers. So, sorry, this article's not written too well. It looks like it's been translated. So in other words, they're trying to say that this was like to kick off the green pass. Well, of course, Janus is associated with locusts as well. So we do see this interesting theme here. And then we'll continue here with verse 7. And the shapes of locusts were like unto horses prepared to battle, and on their heads whereas it were crowns like gold, coronas like gold. So there we see again the theme of coronas show back up. And if you read in Habakkuk, I think it's Habakkuk chapter 3, although I cannot remember the verse, it talks about the locusts also being crowned there as well. So, and of course, it's talking about judgments and of all sorts. So it would be a good comparison to read here as well. Okay, so let me drop that one here and go back to the chip. Get rid of Revelation 13.
While you're
bear with
doing
me,
that,
please.
yeah, while you're doing that, somebody asked me about Jeremiah 2:20 and 2:21, possibly having something to do with mistletoe. So I'll read it, but I'm not sure because I didn't do the research on it. But I'll read it. So Jeremiah 2:20 says, "For of old time I have broken thy yoke and burst thy bands, and thou saidst, I will not transgress. When upon every high hill and under every green tree thou wanderest, playing the harlot. Yet I planted thee a noble vine, wholly a right seed. How then art thou turned into the degenerate plant of a strange vine unto me?" I mean, I don't know. I'd have to do some research into how that has to do with the mistletoe, but I do know that there is plenty of good information in a lot of Christmas researched videos, especially the one I showed you guys earlier and shared in the Discord about the pagan aspects of mistletoe. So I said I would read that. Just wanted to do that real quick.
Yeah, I actually had that up over here too, so I was able to follow along. But it talks about transplanting the vine and the land and things of that nature. So maybe it's talking about the grafting. I mean, it's all the same thing, because basically what he's saying here, they in verse 19, thine own wickedness shall correct thee, and thy backsliding shall reprove thee. Know thee therefore, and see that it is an evil thing and bitter, that thou hast forsaken the Lord thy God, and that my fear is not in thee, saith the Lord God of hosts. So some people don't think you have to fear God, but that's the point. If you get a little too comfortable, you start to think that you don't need to follow this or that, and we should have a very healthy fear of God. But yeah, so this is highlighting the whole point of Hellenization, which is what occurred in the times of story of the Maccabees and the Maccabean revolt. You know, in that period of time, you couldn't tell the difference between a Jew and a non-Jew, because they were mixing together, and the Christians, all of them were practicing pagan holidays, for instance. So think how many people would not identify themselves as a Christian, but yet still practice Christmas. So even to just go ahead and let's just assume like that they're not, right? Then you got Hellenization pretty much being illustrated right there. So imagine if you were an angel making your way through the city, how would you even tell the difference, right? Could you tell the difference? And so that's kind of the whole point, is that we have to be different. We can't be mixing, because that's being the lukewarm that gets spit out, right? And so from time to time, a tyrant will rise up in the midst of all of this and take people into captivity. So I think that's what we're seeing here, depicted in Revelation 9, as this tyrant rises up, and many will be taken into captivity and plagued, but we will be a possession of the Most High and sealed by him. So we will not be able to be harmed, as it describes up here. I think also in Revelation maybe 7 it talks about this a little bit too. Okay, and let me see if I can go back to this article here. I don't know why this is lagging so bad. I even restarted and everything.
Because
so
technology demons be demoning.
Yeah, they're just doing their job. Okay, so back to the chip. This invention created by a tech firm, Disruptive Subdermals, it's spelled incorrectly, of course. It involves a programmed scan. Oh, wow. I want to make a comment on this after I read it. The invention created by tech firm Disruptive Subdermals involves a pre-programmed scannable implant of 2 millimeters by 16 millimeters in size, being inserted just beneath the skin. I have a chip implant in my arm, it says, and I've programmed the chip so that my passport on the chip, and the reason is that I always want to have it accessible. It's a convenience, right? So what I can tell you about this is one of the original chips that got developed back in the day. I think maybe it was related to VeriChip or something like that, but the operating system that they were putting on these chips was actually called Inferno, named after Dante's Inferno. And that's, of course, the gates that are on display right now in Rome are. Also, it's the 700th year anniversary of Dante's death. And so Rodin was making this sculpture and didn't finish it even during his lifetime. But the whole exhibition, the gates, as well as all these paintings, were brought out for a 700th anniversary of his death. And I find it kind of interesting that the whole display is in Dante's Inferno, and that if you do your research, you'll see that the Inferno Linux, the Linux operating system, the flavor of it that was used was Inferno for the microchip. So I didn't expect that to become relevant again. But anyway, look into that. If you're a little bit of a techie person, you might appreciate that.
Also, the 2 by 16 equals 18 divided by 3 is 666.
Yes, and if you multiply 6 times 6 times 6, you'll get 216, which is sometimes also recognized as that same number, which would be 72 names of God with 3 syllables apiece. So, Epiphany, as it were, is when these rulers manifest, and then there's no more mercy, there's only law, and but we're made exempt through the blood of the Lamb and the name Jesus Christ. So that's one thing to remember, is it's a legal exemption. So whenever you do these shows on the law, I can't help but always think of that, and how interesting it is that the decrees that come out of the mouth of God, with that also came this exemption that he put into it. And of course, if it's Lucifer's job to enforce all of the rules, then he has to also enforce the exemption. So I think that verse, Zechariah 3, verse 1 through 10, where it depicts this court case, and Satan is standing before the high priest and the elect. He's trying to prosecute them, but then is told, well, I rebuke you, right? So he has no power to prosecute us because we're under the exemption. So I really think we should take this religious exemption stuff very seriously. Obviously there's a spiritual aspect to it, so we don't have to do it. But I think that in some terms, we should be thinking about it in terms of how it's in a court of law. But anyway, they're wanting to charge about $100 to have you do this, and then you won't have to carry it all around on your phone or carry around a card.
Convenience.
And it just amazes how many people are going to do this without even thinking anything about it. It's just so ridiculous.
It's sad how many people are getting the jabbo. Lots and lots of people.
And I wanted to be able to cover this, so I'll go ahead and move on. But the whole point here with this next article is the combination of humans and technology. We read in Daniel about how they're trying to mix the seed and iron and clay together. So, keep that in mind as we read this. So this is from a video game known as Deus Ex, which means basically God in the machine. And so in this game, there are a lot of different types of motifs, like the Illuminati, for instance, shows up a lot in it. And this is kind of an older game. I'm not sure if it lists the date, but we'll go ahead and just read it here because it kind of speaks for itself. The World Health Organization is a specialized agency. Oh, this is a fact page from the game, by the way. So it's just describing it. Is a specialized agency of the United Nations that is concerned with international public health. The WHO is under the control of the Illuminati, which utilizes the WHO's resources to carry out and advance its agenda. In the 2020s, now mind you, this is an older game. In the 2020s, Elizabeth Duclair, a member of the Illuminati Council of Five, is the spokeswoman and de facto head of the organization. I didn't think to bring up that article, so I'll see if I can populate it in the background. Background. That's funny. Background. In 2008, the World Health Organization began the construction of Omega Ranch. Now, where have we seen Omega? Well,
Dun, dun, dun.
it's the last variant, first of all, and Israel's practicing their Omega war games right now, and it was 2 weeks after that I've read that it was 2 weeks after that that the Omicron even became a thing, and that's after they talked about the fictitious Omega strain. So anyway, we'll continue here. In 2008, the World Health Organization began the construction of Omega Ranch as part of their, quote, disease control initiative. This facility was created to research viral genetics and biological sciences. The facility greatly suffered due to underfunding and staffing problems. These issues eventually resulted in the 2018 incident. We can easily just say the 2019 incident, when a containment breach occurred. I mean, come on. This is so similar to what allegedly happened.
Yes, the narrative.
This breach saw the release of a modified version of the H5N1 avian flu virus. Basically the same thing, only instead of what is different type of antigen, or different type of virus rather. The WHO were forced to close the facility when the spread of the virus resulted in the deaths of tens of thousands of people. Despite this catastrophic incident, Omega Ranch reopened in 2021. A World Health Organization monument is located in Omega Ranch, implying that WHO is still affiliated with the research center. We'll continue here. Activities in 2027. The WHO assigns Health Inspector Stuart St. John to investigate clinical trials of the drug Rising. If you guys could look that up for me real quick, I'd appreciate it.
Which one am I looking up?
I'm
the drug Rising?
Yeah, I just posted in the chat. When the inspector discovers that the drug is unsafe, the WHO turns a blind eye on the matter. The inspector is later assassinated on behalf of the Illuminati. Later in 2027, the Illuminati utilized the WHO to implement a scheme known as, quote, biochip initiative. Their plan is to distribute a biochip specifically designed to allow the Illuminati to control mechanically augmented people. When the biochips are ready, Duclair gives a statement urging augmented people to visit their nearest limb clinic to replace their malfunctioning biochip with the chips designed to give the Illuminati control over the augmented population. The plan goes awry as a result of Hugh Darrow's actions, culminating in the August incident. After the August incident, the WHO sets up clinics with the stated purpose of helping augmented people reintegrate with society. One of such clinics is Facility 451, which is really, really similar to Fahrenheit 451, a book about burning all books. Adam Jensen observes to be more akin to an asylum rather than a clinic. That's really very close. Anybody bring up that Rising? Did you bring that up?
Yes, it's the purported function of it is to help prevent and reverse what they call Darrow deficiency syndrome in the game, I presume. A buildup of glial tissue, which is brain tissue, that blocks electrical signals between augmentation electrodes and human tissue. So I don't totally know exactly what that means, but I don't play the game.
People are like part robotic in this
Oh, okay.
game. Like you could replace
Right,
body parts
transhuman.
with
Okay.
whatever. So it was basically a drug to help facilitate the assimilation of foreign parts into your body. Okay, that makes sense. Okay. Sorry, I was reading some of this other stuff. Some of this gets kind of out there. It might be closer to the truth than we realize. So, Council of Five, I just brought that up to see what it was about. And then talks about the leadership of the Illuminati. I didn't get time to go through this before I brought it up, so forgive me. And then the last thing I wanted to read was this Omega Ranch. This was part of that article too. So Omega Ranch is a research facility in Singapore. It's kind of interesting. It's even in the same part of the world. And a location in Deus Ex Human Revolution. It was known as the Disease Control Initiative when it was initially founded by the World Health Organization, having come into possession of Hugh Darrow's company, Darrow Industries. It was renamed Omega Ranch. The mission rescuing... Oh, sorry, this talks about the game. Okay. Man, I tell you what, it almost sounds like we're reading from an article. It's just so close. I don't remember when this game came out, but this is not a new game. It's been around a while. Yeah. See? Talks about Last of the Tyrants here, which we know as Nimrod.
Yeah,
The Tyrants.
somebody, I can't remember who was in the chat, said, oh, I think it was V, said 2000, but I didn't know that just from my own knowledge.
Yeah, it talks about tyrants here, the Illuminati once again. This is like the paramilitary group that works for them. Talks about the Icarus Effect. Social phenomena to maintain stability. Society eliminates individuals who excel too far before the public is ready to accept radical advancement. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much what we're seeing right now with the jab. So let's read this, and I guess that'll be a good thing to end with. The Icarus Effect. The general idea of the theory is that members of a society whose abilities greatly exceed the average are a threat to the society's stability. Thus, these renegades like Icarus who dared to use technology to allow him to fly too close to the sun are eliminated by society. This allows stability to return such that the species does not advance too rapidly. Interesting. So are they going to try to say that they're the advanced ones and we're trying to eliminate them from society? Who knows? I'd say that's how they look at us, though. We're lagging behind, holding them back. So that's all I had for this evening. Really just wanted to talk about the Christmas tree. But remember, in this chapter 10 here, yes, he starts off talking about the Christmas tree, but by the end, he's talking about judgment. And judgment coming from the north. So, and then it ends with a prayer.
And like we said, there are good videos. I know that the guy in the Discord that got mad at me said that I was just posting some grifters video, but it's not. The gal Mascriana or something is her last name. Anyway, she's been doing New Age research for years. So I did post a very well 30-minute video about all the reasons that Christmas is totally pagan. And it doesn't say, therefore, if you celebrate Christmas, you're totally screwed. But it does, I think that you'll think twice about how you celebrate if you were to watch it. And read the scriptures. Just read the Bible. Because I'd ask you, what day do the apostles open presents with each other celebrating Jesus' birth? Is it even really something we're supposed to do at all?
Yeah. And so it says here, behold, the noise of a bruit is come, and the great commotion out of the north country to make the cities of Judah desolate and a den of dragons. So, it talks about this judgment coming from the North Country, which is a theme we kind of see over and over and over again. Like the Assyrian would come from the north and crush everything. So
Thank you for all the time
Anyway.
that you spend on this. Thanks for doing everything that you do. I say that every time, and every time I truly mean it.
yeah, this one was actually kind of simple, but yeah,
Important.
I'm glad I started feeling better today so that we could do this. So you want to end with some music?
If I can find something short, I will. Yeah, I think I can. So I'll say goodbye to you, and we'll end with a short song. I appreciate you, and have a blessed evening.
I shall. Many meows, of course.
Meow.
Fairly well.
I kept my head low and I walked that narrow road as mighty men roamed who devoured both house and home. But I won't forget that day you made yourself known. You said the end has come for men, but hang tight to me with your family.